Gold with Danny Golding starts now.
That's gold, Jerry. Gold!
The Gold with Danny Golding starts now.
That's gold, Jerry. Gold!
It's now time for The Gold with Danny Golding starts now.
That's gold, Jerry.
What's going down? YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Apparently, right now, I'm trying to get my intro to play.
The Gold with Danny Golding starts now.
That's gold, Jerry. Gold!
Yeah, let me just make sure that my audio and everything correctly. I had a whole intro and everything.
San Francisco! And the Giants have won. They have won the World Series for the third time in 5 years.
The road to redemption has brought the Warriors back home. The Golden
/ Twitter right now.
The Gold with Danny Golding starts now.
That's gold, Jerry. Gold!
Well, I guess. You know what? Hold on. Let's restart this shit. Hold on.
San Francisco! And the Giants have won. They have won the World Series for the third time in 5 years.
The road to redemption has brought the Warriors back home. The Golden State Warriors are the 2017 NBA champions.
Now your host, Danny Golden.
What's going down? YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. You are tuned in to the Gold with Danny Golding here on Danny Golding TV. Man, what a wild card weekend we had. Well, not all the games, but man, the game tonight, the Commanders 23-20 win over the Buccaneers. That was a
The Gold with Danny
game.
Golding starts now.
That's gold, Jerry.
Daniel,
Gold!
168 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. And he could be a future
San Francisco! And the Giants have won. They have won the World Series for the third time in 5 years.
The road to redemption has brought the Warriors back home. The Golden State Warriors are the 2017 NBA champions.
I
Now
was
your
surprised
host,
that the Texans
Danny Golding.
won, but I was expecting a better game than that. The Texans absolutely mollywopped them 32-12. Lamar Jackson and the Ravens beat the Steelers 28-14 in the classic rivalry game. The games today, the Bills just absolutely beat the shit out of the Broncos 31-7. Then what I expected to be a better game, the Eagles beat the Packers 22-10. And just a little bit ago, the Commanders.
The Gold with
got
Danny
their
Golding
first
starts now.
That's gold,
playoff
Jerry.
win since
Gold!
2005, back when they were the Washington Redskins beating the Buccaneers.
San Francisco! And the Giants have won. They have won the World Series for the third time in 5 years.
The road to redemption has brought the Warriors back home. The Golden State Warriors.
It's now time for The Gold with
Pissed me off, but hey, the show goes on. So just wanted to recap the Niners 2024 season. So after losing Super Bowl 58 last year, the Niners went 6-11. The second Super Bowl loss in 4 years to Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and the Kansas City Chiefs. Losing to a team like that twice, that's going to go down as one of the greatest dynasties in NFL history, is one thing. But losing to them in overtime the way you did, when you have the added baggage of everyone wondering if Kyle Shanahan and his team knew the overtime rules, makes it a completely different story. Had the Niners deferred and gave Mahomes the ball first, you would have had a better opportunity to defeat the Chiefs. So in the days after the Super Bowl, that's what was on everyone's mind. But just a couple days later, on February 13th, something else happened. which kind of started the whole offseason drama that lasted through pretty much the entire offseason. Brandon Ayuk's brother started posting Instagram stories saying he wanted out of San Francisco and wanted to go to Vegas. And Ayuk spent a lot of the offseason doing the modern negotiation tactics, like unfollowing the team on Instagram, using social media itself as a negotiation tactic. As he tweeted stuff like, "Oh, me and Mike Tomlin look alike." He ended up holding out a training camp, requested a trade to the Steelers until eventually signing a 4-year, $120 million extension on August 29th. Now, the no training camp or preseason clearly made Ayuk a little rusty, as he was pretty much a non-factor in all but one of the 7 games he played before getting injured in the Super Bowl rematch against the Chiefs Week 7. Now, speaking of non-factors, his co-star receiver, Deebo Samuel, was also not much of a factor this season. In 2024, Deebo only had 670 receiving yards, 3 receiving touchdowns, and 1 rushing touchdown. Now, Deebo will most likely be traded unless the Niners decide they want to avoid a dead cap hit. Now, Deebo, overall, in his career with the Niners, he's been a great 49er. He was a big factor on the first Super Bowl team in his rookie season in 2019, and then in 2021 he was great both as a receiver with 6 touchdown receptions and playing the role of a running back in the backfield with 8 rushing touchdowns. But he's going to be 29 next season, and he's not a factor in the backfield at all anymore. And he just isn't a reliable receiver anymore. Now, as far as his attitude goes, I like his personality overall, but at times he can be a real diva. And one thing that got on my nerves a lot was when he decided to tweet after being criticized for his struggles this past season that he wasn't struggling, just not getting the ball. But then he deletes the tweet, doesn't stand by it, and then proceeds to drop what would be a touchdown pass from Purdy in that second Rams game with the season on the line. So, and the fact that the Niners only won 1 division game was absolutely unacceptable. Hold up a sec. Wait, so was my music playing in the background? Huh, okay, I couldn't hear it. That's weird. Yeah, Rockin' You Ready for Let Me Know. Did you actually hear the intro that I had set up? Because I did not hear it when I played it. Actually, I did not hear it. Let me know if you actually, I'll play it again and let me know if you hear it, because I did not hear it through my headphones and I was tripping out.
Danny Golding starts now.
That's gold, Jerry. Gold!
Okay, let me know in the chat if you can hear it.
Touchdown! San Francisco! And the Giants have won. They have won the World Series for the 3rd time in 5 years.
The road to redemption has brought the Warriors back home. The Golden State Warriors are the 2017 NBA champions.
Now your host, Danny Golden.
The Gold with Danny Golding starts now.
That's gold, Jerry. Gold!
Touchdown! San Francisco! And the Giants have won. They have won the World Series for the 3rd time in 5 years.
The road to redemption.
Yes, indeed. You are watching The Gold with Danny Golding here on Danny Golding TV. Shout out to Ernie Chavez. Welcome to the stream. Appreciate you watching. And yeah, once I realized that the intro was being played, I just couldn't hear it. I just had to play it to its fullest extent. But going back to what I was saying though is, yeah, the fact that the Niners were only won one division game, the one game against the Seahawks, is just absolutely unacceptable. That first Cardinals game, I mean, that just pretty much set the tone for the season. Because after that game, it lost a lot of confidence. The first game to the Rams, when they lost that one, that was an unacceptable loss, but I mean, it was still a close game, and it's still in heartbreaking fashion. And Purdy looked really good in that game, so wasn't too worried necessarily after that one. But once you lost the game in the 100+ degree heat at Levi's, that kind of just gave you a feeling that it just was not going to be the year. It was going to be another Super Bowl losing hangover. But going back to the crazy offseason that had the Ayuk holdout drama, had Trent Williams hold in, which also didn't get settled until right before the start of the season. On August 31st, just a week before week 1 of the NFL season, it gets reported that the 49ers' first-round pick, Ricky Pearsall, is shot at Union Square in San Francisco in an attempted robbery attempt. Now, without a doubt, that was absolutely on the team's mind just before the season. I mean, everyone was worried about Ricky's safety first and foremost, and football was the last thing on anyone's mind. Ricky ends up missing the first 7 weeks of the season due to the injury he sustained in the shooting. I mean, how insane does that sound? In the Tampa Bay game, he gets his first career NFL touchdown as well as 73 receiving yards. He's pretty much a non-factor for the next 5 games, but then gets 4 receptions in the Miami game, shows out in the last 2 games, getting a touchdown reception from Purdy in the Detroit game and then from Josh Dobbs in the season finale in Arizona. Now, he has had some struggles this season, but with what he's had to deal with the past few months, it's completely understandable. And you just have to see what he has on the table in 2025. Now, there are many factors that affected the 49ers this season, from the rest disadvantage, where they had to play against a lot of teams that were either coming off of bye week or a mini bye week playing on Thursday night the week before, and the personal tragedies of Javarius Ward and Trent Williams. But the biggest factor was the fact that the leading offensive player last year, Christian McCaffrey, was injured for most of the season. A couple hours or so before kickoff week 1 against the Jets, it's reported that CMC has a calf injury and will not play. Now, Jordan Mason looks good in that game, so people, aren't really as worried because it doesn't look like the injury is going to be a season-long injury or anything. It just looks like it might be first few weeks or whatnot. And the fact that Jordan Mason looked good in that game, ended up looking pretty well for overall this season, as well as Isaac Guerrero once, in November on as well. But before week 2 against the Vikings, it's reported that he has pain in his Achilles tendonitis and ends up going on the injured reserve list. He ends up traveling to Germany to see a specialist for both his Achilles during the time that he's out for. And then he's finally cleared to play in the game in Tampa Bay, but he doesn't look like himself. And then fast forward to the game in Buffalo, when he finally does look like himself, he ends up coming out of the game in the second half with a right knee injury and is re-injured for the rest of the season, but thankfully it doesn't end up being another Achilles injury. But if I had told you before the season started that CMC would play 4 games this season and he wouldn't score a single touchdown after being the best offensive player last year and being tied for most touchdowns total, both rushing and receiving, with former Niners running back Raheem Mostert, would you have believed me? Now, George Kittle, on the other hand, had an incredible season with 78 catches, 1,106 yards, and he scores 8 touchdowns in 15 games this year. And he ends up getting his 1,000 yards for his 4th season. So George Kittle is, despite all the negative stuff this year, George Kittle had a hell of a year as well. Let's see. Rockin', as far as the Madden curse goes, I thought that was ended with Patrick Mahomes being on the cover, but still, I mean, I guess you can make the case that was just maybe it only affects running back. I mean, it's obviously it's affected quarterbacks before. Wasn't Michael Vick on the Madden cover like the year before the dogfighting stuff came out? So I guess you can make an argument that it's back. We all thought it was over with Mahomes winning a Super Bowl after being on the cover, but oh yeah, Peyton Hillis, that was one of the big ones as well. I know that my mom was telling me that back in the 80s and the 90s it was before Madden was really a thing. It was a Sports Illustrated curse that was a thing. And let's see, he's won a pay raise this offseason. I did not hear that. He did get an extension last offseason, of course, and a lot of people were wondering if, since he only played limited in training camp, were the Niners hiding some kind of injury that he had? That is definitely a possibility, but I still don't think that, they anticipated that it would be as bad as it ended up being. And yeah, man, Ernie, this season was straight up garbage. And I was, thinking, most teams that end up losing the Super Bowl, a lot of them don't end up making the playoffs this season. And I asked my Snapchat AI for about the last 15 years or so, and that wasn't completely accurate because there's some that I know for a fact they didn't mention. But here's just some of the big ones we can think of. Now, 2007, of course, the Patriots, after losing Super Bowl 42 to the Giants after going 16-0, which, by the way, fun fact, that was actually the first year that I watched. 2007 was the first year I watched sports in general, actually. And so that was the first full NFL season I followed. And that Super Bowl was being played in Arizona. I had moved from the Bay Area 3 years earlier. And I was rooting hard for the New York Giants in that playoffs. So of course the Patriots missed the playoffs that year. Tom Brady, of course, got injured in the 2008 season, and Matt Castle was the quarterback for most of that year, which is definitely played a huge factor in them not even making the playoffs. The 2015 Carolina Panthers, after losing Super Bowl 50, which was played at Levi's, missed the playoffs and in the 2016 season. Of course, the 2016 Atlanta Falcons, Dan Quinn and Kyle Shanahan as the offensive coordinator, lost the Super Bowl to the New England Patriots after being up 28-3 and missed the playoffs in the 2017 season. The 2018 LA Rams lost the Super Bowl which was one of the worst Super Bowls ever played. They only scored 3 points in the Super Bowl that they lost to the Patriots, and then they missed the playoffs in the 2019 season, where, of course, the Niners took that division and dominated the NFC West that year. Now, it doesn't even list the 2020 49ers, who, of course, also lost. So that just proves that AI just isn't quite as sophisticated as we expect it to be. Because, of course, the Niners also did not make the playoffs following losing the Super Bowl in the 2019-2020 season. And yeah, it definitely is more like a blackout. But of course, another factor was the rest disadvantage. They had one of the worst rest disadvantages in 20 years. Now, next season, they're supposed to have a last place schedule, which won't necessarily be a last place schedule once the season itself starts, but that definitely should have an impact, and hopefully the Niners are able to easily, I mean, it's not going to be easy, but hopefully they're able to win the NFC West. And yes, Allen Iverson is the original AI. I asked the Snapchat AI, what do you and Allen Iverson have in common? He's like we both have the same initials, so it was sophisticated enough to say that. So I wanted to play sound. Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch were asked about what the future going forward with Brock Purdy is, and this is what they had to say.
Kyle, how would you assess Brock's performance this year, and how important is it for you to have him back, in time for OTAs, just given that he's the quarterback and you don't want to go through that process?
Yeah, definitely. It's important to have our whole team back for OTAs. And that's actually, it's last year, it was like 8 weeks after our last game that our guys needed to be back for voluntary work and stuff, which I think is real important. And the year before that, it was like 9 or 10 weeks. So these last two, and then when we all got back, it was like you could tell we all were back, but we wish we had a little bit more time. And when I look at a calendar now and realize we have 14 weeks until we need to get back, like I expect everyone to be ready to go and excited to really get this going and play some football. And that starts with Brock. Like Brock is the leader of our team. I've loved these 3 years with Brock. I plan on being with Brock here the whole time I'm here. So like Brock's been a stud. He's a guy I got a lot of confidence in, and just as a human. But it starts with what he's done on the field these last 2.5 years, and we're capable of winning a Super Bowl with him. We just almost did, and I know he's capable of getting the Niners Super Bowl in the future.
Now, Brock has definitely regressed in this season, but you still have a lot more confidence in him than you did in Jimmy Garoppolo following 2019. Because now Jimmy G looked good in 2019 for some games in the regular season, but once we got towards the playoff, I mean, he looked really great in that Saints 48-46 shootout. I mean, after that game, you're like, man, Jimmy G is the real deal. Now, had he not gotten injured a year before that in 2018, there's a possibility that he ends up looking a lot better for the rest of his career as a 49er. But you got the sense that Kyle Shanahan actually trusted Brock in the postseason last year, because Jimmy in the 2019 playoffs only threw the ball 8 times in the not in the whole playoffs, but in the NFC Championship game when Raheem Mostert had the 4 rushing touchdowns. You only saw Jimmy throw the ball 8 times. Now, it was actually the 5-year anniversary just yesterday of the divisional game against the Vikings that I actually went to at Levi's. Jimmy threw a touchdown pass to Kendrick Bourne, and that was the only touchdown pass he threw that entire postseason at all. Now, Brock, on the other hand, led a game-winning drive against the Lions and just led a game-winning comeback after being down 24-7 at halftime. Now, the idea is if he's going to be paid $60 million or $55 million and all that, personally, I don't think he's worth that much. But when you have all these other quarterbacks who have done a lot less than Brock Purdy, so you have Dak Prescott making $60 million, you have Joe Burrow making $55 million. Joe Burrow actually made it to a Super Bowl, but then you have Jordan Love also making $55 million, who's done a lot less than Purdy. Trevor Lawrence barely done anything so far. I mean, he's a damn good quarterback, but he doesn't have any playoff. He doesn't have that much on his resume. He makes $55 million. Tua Tagovailoa, $53 million. Now, Jared Goff, who could very well represent the NFC in the Super Bowl, he makes $53 million. And Justin Herbert who looked horrible yesterday, makes $52 million. And Lamar Jackson makes $52 million. Dang, I think he should get paid higher, actually. And then Jalen Hurts makes $51 million. And then next on the list is, of course, Kyler Murray making $46 million. Now, obviously, Brock is worth more than Kyler. He's worth more than Jalen Hurts because he's actually played in a Super Bowl. Same thing with Lamar Jackson and Justin Herbert. And hey, Goff, even though Goff became close last year, he still has more on his resume, so he should make more than Goff. And same thing with obviously Tua, Trevor Lawrence, Jordan Love, and Dak. So his agent, Kyle Shanahan, even if Brock wants to take less, is going to want him to take as much as he possibly can. So I personally think he's going to make about I think he's going to make about $55 million is what I think is going to end up being what happens. But yeah, this season, like you said, Ernie, it was a total garbage season. It was. But hey, there were a lot of factors that they couldn't control. Of course, what happened, the off-the-field tragedies with Travarius Ward and Trent Williams. Travarius Ward losing his 23-month-old daughter who was born prematurely with Down syndrome. That was just awful. And Trent Williams, his son, ended up being a stillborn, and I can actually relate to that because I was supposed to have a twin brother who ended up dying in a stillbirth, so I can actually relate to that a lot. Or at least, I mean, I personally can, I guess, but my family can definitely relate to how awful that is, and that's, it's definitely on, when it's on their minds, it's also on the rest of the team's minds as well. So, and that's nothing they can control, of course. And then the Ricky Pearsall situation just before the season started. I mean, that's just an unprecedented thing that, I mean, hardly ever happens. Like I said earlier in this stream, like he was out for the first 7 weeks because of his injury that he sustained with the bullet wound. I mean, how insane is that? And yes, Ricky Pearsall, struggled a lot this year, but he also looked bright in some games, especially that, that Tampa Bay game, when he scored his first NFL touchdown, him rocking the 480. My local, he's from Arizona too, so he has my area code, the 480. He has that tattooed, which, it's pretty cool. I'm a big fan of that. When Ricky Pearsall has a full season going into next year, and I heard even before the shooting, he wasn't looking that good in training camp, but when he has a full training camp, plays in the well, actually, I guess he did play I think he did play in the preseason a little bit. I'm not, I forget if he did or not, actually, because that was it being on August 31st when he got shot. It was after the preseason, so I forget if he played at all. I want to say he didn't, actually, but when he can get a full season without any of the stuff happening before that, then I expect that the flashes we saw of Ricky looking good in those last couple games is just going to carry on into 2025. And yeah, Rocket, I do agree with you. I absolutely do agree with you that he's not worth $50+ million. But the thing is, the way the market is, and the way that those other quarterbacks have less on his resume, I think he is going to end up getting that. But hey, what I would personally want is I think he's going to make about 40 to 45 million would be what I think he's worth this year. Okay, yeah, that's right. He got injured during training camp. He wasn't practicing much. Okay, got it. Yeah, I remember there was some talk during training camp that he wasn't looking too good. So shifting gears a little bit to the Golden State Warriors, who after starting off the season 12-3, since then they're 7-16 since then, not looking too good. They lost on Tuesday, they lost 114-98 against the Heat, against Jimmy Butler in the Heat, who is talked about as a possible trade option for the Warriors. And then they beat the Pistons 107-104 in a close game, and then lose the next game on the back-to-back without Draymond and Steph, losing on 108-96 to the Pacers. They play the Raptors tomorrow night at 5:30. I wanted to play some Steve Kerr sound because you normally don't ever see Steve Kerr pissed off. Except one time I can remember, rightfully so, he was pissed off after that Uvalde shooting that happened when the Warriors were playing the Mavericks, and we're playing the series against the Mavericks, which happened in the same state that he was in right now. So rightfully so, he was pissed then for a non-basketball reason. But this is what he said when he was asked about Trace Jackson Davis after the Heat game.
Everything that happened tonight, how nice was it to see Trace step up, especially after the rough night he had the other night?
I mean, I can't sit here after that and be excited about anything. he scored 19 points. Great. He's having a good season. But who the hell cares if we're not competitive? If we don't have a competitive spirit and a fight and a willingness to compete through everything, then I'm not going to sit here and talk about it. Hey, so-and-so had some points. Great. Who cares? It's about us competing and being the Warriors, being the team we've been for 10 years and not feeling sorry for ourselves. That's what I'm thinking about tonight.
Now, some people were criticized. I saw some people criticizing Steve Kerr for, not motivating Jonathan Kuminga, not giving him props for the game that he had, which I understand that, but also I like to see Steve actually pissed about losing, especially, after the start they had and, all the success that they've had in the past fucking decade. I want to see Steve actually show emotion and show that he's pissed off after losing. And I think that's more important than, if he's, going to compliment Trayce Jackson-Davis for the game that he had. But there's a lot of Warrior fans that say that he should be fired, and I will say that, yes, some of his rotations don't make sense. Some of his lineups don't make sense, but still, he's won 4 championships with the Warriors. He has 9 championship. I think now he has 10 championship rings overall, both as a player and as a coach. And he has a playoff experience. So they're the 10th seed now. They most likely will at least be a play-in team and they have a good chance at actually making the postseason. You want a head coach that actually has playoff experience, like Steve Kerr coaching your team when you still have Steph Curry, you still have Draymond, you still have Kevon Looney. You still have players that have been there before. So I understand, Steve Kerr definitely isn't immune from criticism, but the fact that fans think he should be fired is just absolutely fucking retarded in my opinion. And Rockin brings up there seems to be a disconnection with the roster, and Kerr also can't develop young players. Yes, he definitely has issues developing young players. He prefers his veterans. That was even more so the case when Clay was still there. But hey, the 12-3 start, I don't think that was a fluke. I mean, I expected it to go on. I expected it to carry on into now. I mean, the fact that they went 7-16 after that 12-3 start that's crazy and ridiculous. But I don't think that was a fluke. And once the Warriors can actually make the postseason, if they can, get past the play-in and all that, and hopefully they're a higher seed when they don't even have to worry about the play-in, then that you have Steph, you have Draymond, and you have Steve Kerr coaching. The Warriors are not going to be. No team's going to want to face the Warriors in the postseason. With all the championships on their resume. Now I wanted to shift gears again and talk about Justin Verlander signing a 1-year, $15 million deal with the Giants. Of course, Justin Verlander is a future Hall of Fame pitcher. He's 41 years old right now. He's a 9-time All-Star, 2-time world champion with the Astros in 2017 and 2022. He was AL MVP in 2011, 3-time Cy Young Award winner in 2011, 2019, and 2022. Triple Crown winner in 2011. And he was also the AL Rookie of the Year back in 2006. He also has an AL Comeback Player of the Year on his resume from 2022. Now, people were comparing this a lot to Randy Johnson signing with the Giants in 2009, and I actually have a cool story about that. Is in 2007 and 2008, I watched Randy Johnson pitch for the D-backs. I went to a lot of games when he would pitch, and it was on my. I just wish I was like, man, I really want Randy Johnson to end up finishing his career with the Giants. He's from Livermore. He's from the Bay Area. I was like, man, that would be awesome if Randy Johnson could eventually become a Giant and finish his career there. That's the team probably grew up rooting for. Yeah, I was really hoping for that. I mean, because I loved watching him pitch for the D-backs, and the first season that I even got in, to sports in general, 2007, the D-backs made the playoffs that year. They lost, and they even beat the Cubs in the NLDS, and then lost to the Rockies in the NLCS. I went to a lot of games that year. I went to actually game 2 of the NLCS in 2007 against the Rockies. I was a big fan of Eric Burns on the team. So when we had moved 3 years before that, like I said earlier, from the Bay Area to Arizona, and my mom was a big fan of Eric Burns when he played for the A's. Of course, he's a Bay Area kid as well. He was, and I would even listen to him, come on KMBR a lot for interviews back then. Heck, I even remember him filling in on KMBR while he was still playing for the D-backs in the 2007 offseason during the holidays. I thought it was really cool, and I wanted him to eventually play for the Giants too, which of course didn't happen. But so in 2009, the Giants end up signing Randy Johnson, and Randy Johnson ends up getting his 300th career win for the Giants, which was really cool to see. Now, Justin Verlander is definitely going to be a big mentor to the young pitchers like Kyle Harrison, Hayden Birdsong, Jordan Hicks, and Logan Webb. And so just having him around then as a mentor in the clubhouse is going to be big for the Giants. Of course, his biggest career moment for anything involving the Giants was in Game 1 of the 2012 World Series when he gave up 3 home runs to the great Panda Pablo Sandoval. So hopefully he'll be able to make some better memories for himself with the Giants. Yeah, no, I get that. He is 41 years old. He is past his prime, but hey, they only signed him for a 1-year, $15 million deal. So if he doesn't look that good for the first half of the year, they could trade him in the trade deadline. But I think it is going to be a big factor for the Giants. Buster Posey making moves, being the new president of baseball operations. So I am looking forward to Randy Johnson. To Justin Verlander this year. Yeah, I still have Randy Johnson on the brain, man. Yeah, hey Rocket, you probably remember when Randy Johnson killed that bird in spring training. Was too young to follow it at that time. But I'm sure you remember that. Yeah, that funny times indeed. But we're gonna move on to our segment that I like to call Anniversaries and Crazy Stories. Take it away.
It's now time for anniversaries.
Happy anniversary.
And crazy stories.
It was crazy.
On the Gold with Danny Golding.
So yeah, sorry. Hopefully you guys are able to hear that. Again, I cannot hear it for some reason. I don't know why, but that is the segment I like to call Anniversaries and Crazy Stories, where we go over some anniversaries and some crazy stories that have happened. So before I get into the anniversaries, just want to talk about, 2025 has been off to a kind of a rough start. Just on January 1st, on New Year's Day in New Orleans, we have the guy in his pickup truck just driving into Bourbon Street and killing 15 people and injuring at least 35 others. That was just absolutely insane. We literally had a terrorist attack in our country on the first day of the new year, 2025. Just absolutely awful. And then you have the fires in LA, in the Pacific Palisades, and in Malibu, and just in that whole area, which is just absolutely awful. So prayers to everyone out there, thoughts to everyone out there. That's just, that just sucks so badly. That's happening. And our beloved state of California, that just sucks. It's awful. And of course, Steve Kerr It was revealed. He revealed that his childhood home was lost in the wildfire, and as well as the high school that he went to as well. And he said his mom is in good hands. His mom was able to evacuate, but yeah, a lot of his childhood friends, a lot of them that still live there, a lot of them lost their homes, and lost so many childhood memories, and that's just the whole thing is just awful. So for the first anniversary, January 9th was the 10-year anniversary of when Klay Thompson scored 37 points in a single quarter.
Klay Thompson, now with 15. Klay, great defense. Read the passing lane, comes up with a steal. Klay Thompson sets his feet, ending the three-point drought. Thompson triple. Yes, sir. 2-on-1. Lob. Oh, right-handed hammer.
Clay's got that kind of elevation. You kind of hold your breath till they start that lob.
Nice. Klay Thompson 3. How he's feeling it.
Yes,
absolutely feeling it. Klay Thompson
5 for 5, including 3 threes. Oh, that's a deep one.
He shot for the Piedmont. He's trying to deny Klay the ball. Barely in his hands and right in the bucket. 7 of 10 on threes. 32 in the game. And Klay, 8 for 8. Keep finding Klay Thompson to the rim again.
A 24-point quarter.
Klay 3. Yes, sir! Oh, man! 40! Crowd standing. Klay driving again. Good! Oh, you're kidding me! Get it to him again. He's got it. His 3. Klay again, his 3. If you're wondering what the NBA record is for most points in a quarter, you just watched it. George Gervin had 33 in a quarter, and Klay Thompson has 50 and 37 in a quarter. I'm going to repeat that. 37 in a quarter.
Bob Fitzgerald with the call on NBC Sports Bay Area, and man, look at how young both Steph and Klay looked, man. And yeah, Senzel, welcome to the chat. That is a good point. That's what I was even touching on earlier. Is like, why is Dak worth $60 million when he's never seen even gotten to an NFC Championship game, and people believe that Brock Purdy should be paid $10 million less than a QB to back-to-back NFC championships? Yeah, no, absolutely, and yeah, not only that, like you have quarterbacks like. I mean, yeah, he's the highest paid, and then you have Joe Burrow is only the second highest paid, who's at least he's been to a Super Bowl. But then you have Jordan Love, Trevor Lawrence, and Tua, and Jared Goff, who've never been anywhere near a Super Bowl. So yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I think I saw his photo on his Instagram. I think I did see that. Or no, I think it's on his Twitter or something. Yeah, it's the upside down bird. That's funny. Let's see. January 10th was the 42nd year anniversary of this.
3rd and 3.
We'll see a pickup some kind on the right side, possibly.
Montana looking, throwing in the end zone. Clark caught it! Dwight Clark!
Vince Scully with that call, and of course the Niners ended up go on to win their first Super Bowl in the 1981-82 season against the Cincinnati Bengals. That was on January 10th, 1982. And hello, SG Sports Talk channel. And on January 10th, 2009, 16 years ago, yours truly said hi to the YouTube world for the first time.
Hey, what is up, y'all? It's Danny Golden. Man, what a win by the Arizona Cardinals. God, what a win. I mean, now the reason I'm having this strong point, I just want to point out, the reason I have a strong to stop believing, because I think that Cardinals win helped the Niners a lot. And I'll tell you what. Next year, that's exactly what's going to happen with the Niners. I'm going to bet you that 12 months from now, the Niners, baby, are going to have the exact what the Cardinals are. Now at the post game on the Cardinal-Panthers game, well, it first started out with the Panthers driving up to the end zone when it first started. But then later, the Cardinals came back. With their touchdown and then their interception or then their fumble return for a touchdown, and that's how they came back. Sorry about the music here. Okay, look like we're a little short on that. Look, I guess we don't have any music. Well, so anyway, the the Cardinals came back with a fumble recover for the touchdown, and then on the next drive, on the next Panther drive, the Cardinals got an interception right on the end zone by Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie, which put them all the way back for another quarter, and then they got like a few more picks, and at halftime it was 27-7 Cardinals. And like I was watching the Fox Sports and F. Terry, Howie, Jimmy, Michael Strahan. They were all picking against the Cardinals. They were all picking for the Panthers. But and so did Frank Caliendo also on his picks. He did John Madden at the piano, and he did a funny thing that the only player that's doing anything worse than or the only Arizona team that's doing worse on the road than the Cardinals is Charles Barkley. Oh, that was terrible. That was terrible. John Madden. I mean, but Brett Favre and then boom. Yeah, so he did John Madden at the piano, which was pretty entertaining. But the Cardinals just, as you know, I live in Arizona, and this town was going crazy. At the end, I went to a sports bar.
Okay, so you guys pretty much get the hang of that, man. It's cool to give Frank Caliendo and yeah, that was a classic segment when I'm sure a lot of you guys probably remember that when Frank Caliendo would do he'd be one of the guys with Terry Bradshaw, Howie Long, and Michael Strahan and all that, and then you'd have Frank Caliendo would do his NFL picks as well, but he would pretend to be John Madden or pretend to be Al Pacino or Bill Clinton or George Bush or someone. Yeah, that 16 years ago, January 10, 2009, that was actually my third video that I made on that same day, but I thought that was worth sharing. I ended up recapping a Cardinals-Panthers wild card game that was played on that exact same day, and the Cardinals actually made it to the Super Bowl and lost to the Steelers, and which is also the last Super Bowl that the Steelers won. Of course, they lost to the Packers a couple years after. But Mike Tomlin, to this day, is still their coach. But who knows? I don't know if he'll be back next season as well. Let's see. Now, of course, we also hit the anniversary of January 6, 2021. Yeah, of course, that was the big Capitol riot that happened. Now, what I think is the funniest thing. Now, yes, I know that Donald Trump didn't necessarily want it to be a riot; he just wanted it to be a peaceful protest, whatever. But so this is what he says when he addresses his supporters after and tells them to go home. This is what he's.
I know your pain. I know you're hurt. We had an election that was stolen from us. It was a landslide election, and everyone knows it, especially the other side. But you have to go home now. We have to have peace. We have to have law and order. We have to respect our great people in law and order. We don't want anybody hurt. It's a very tough period of time. There's never been a time like this where such a thing happened, where they could take it away from all of us, from me, from you, from our country.
Yeah, and I just think it's funny that even when he's trying to tell the mob to calm down, he still has to bring up the bullshit about the stolen election and all that. So, but yeah, I'm not trying to get too political, but that's a big part of American history, which we just had the anniversary of as well. And by the SG, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to have anyone join the show tonight. I'm only going to be able to do this for about another 10 minutes as well. Another time for sure that you can join, but. So another anniversary is January 8th, 2011 was the 14-year anniversary of Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords and 18 others being shot during a meeting that was held in a supermarket parking lot in Tucson, Arizona. An event called Congress on Your Corner, and that's something that I actually remember very well. So it was 14 years ago, and I was 13, about to turn 14, actually. And I have a memory of I was playing NBA 2K11 on the Nintendo Wii, which, by the way, is a very underrated game to play on the Wii. I mean, not when people think of the Wii, they don't really think of sports games as well. But the NBA 2K was really cool because you could literally just shoot on it, and yeah. That was a very underrated, fun game. But my mom comes home, it's a Saturday morning. I'm not in school. It's, Saturday, of course. And my mom comes home and is like, please turn on the news. I think the Democratic Congresswoman from Arizona got shot or got killed. I'm like, what the fuck? And yeah, she ends up miraculously surviving a headshot and is, still alive to this day. And her husband, who was back then just an astronaut, ended up becoming he's now currently a senator here in Arizona as well. But yeah, there was a chief judge named John Roll that was killed, and very sadly there was a 9-year-old girl named Christina Taylor Greene, who I remember was actually born on the actual day of September 11, 2001, and then died then. She was very interested in politics. She wanted to go to the event to see what it was like. It's just very awful thing that happened on that day, and that's just something that I remember very well, of course. So now getting on to the crazy stories portion of this. A man nearly missed his flight because his Waymo, which for those of you that don't know, Waymo is a self-driving, it's a self-driving manless car that you can ride in. You can get a ride like it's a lift, but there's no driver at all. But there was an error that happened in one. Let's take a look.
I told you about all the problems with driverless taxis, but here's a new one. This guy was on his way to the airport when he says the vehicle just started going round and round and round in circles.
It's the cab ride that's literally going round and round.
This car is just going in circles.
Passenger Mike Johns says he got into the driverless Waymo taxi to take him from a car rental drop-off to the airport in Scottsdale, Arizona. All at once, he says the taxi started going in circles right in the parking lot.
Why is this happening to me on a Monday? I got a flight to catch.
He manages to reach Waymo's support staff.
Is it circling around a parking lot, right?
It's circling around a parking lot. I got my seatbelt on. I can't get out the car. I didn't know what was going on, and things got crazy.
Johns works in tech. At first, he thought that the taxi had been hacked by a prankster.
By the third loop, no, this ain't no prank. The doors were locked. In the moment, you felt like you were trapped. The feeling was just like a ghost in the machine.
I am trying to pull it over right now. Apologies.
Johns actually stayed in the taxi, and it proceeded to take him to the airport.
Thank God there was a flight delay. And so I did catch my flight.
John says he still thinks driverless cars have an important role in the future, but after his experience, he thinks
it's still work in progress.
Is somebody playing a joke on me?
Waymo tells us the passenger was not charged for the ride, and the issue of going around in circles was addressed with a software update.
Inside edition with the story, and man, I don't know if I would trust driver. I mean, I know that there hasn't been any safety issues with them. They've so far been so good, but I don't know. I think it's the idea of riding in a car that's completely driverless. I don't know if we're into that point in our society when that should be considered safe just yet. But hey, what do I know? And then just one more. Not trying to get political again, but I think this is a very awkward thing that happened. Of course, just this January 6th, of course, the vice president always certifies the election. So Kamala Harris, the losing candidate, had to certify Donald Trump's 2024 presidential election and had to talk about herself in the third person, which I thought was awkward. Let's take a look.
The state of the vote for the President of the United States, as delivered to the President of the Senate, is as follows. The whole number of the electors appointed to vote for President of the United States is 538. Within that whole number, the majority is 270. The votes for President of the United States are as follows. Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida has received 312 votes. Kamala D. Harris Kamala D. Harris of the state of California has received 226 votes. This announcement of the state of the vote by the President of the Senate shall be deemed a sufficient declaration of the persons elected, President and Vice President of the United States.
Yeah, so just interesting, though. I mean, definitely an odd thing that you would see when you certify your own loss for an election. I believe Al Gore would have done the same thing back in 2000 when he lost in that very crazy election to George W. Bush. But yeah, so anyway, that's going to be it for us tonight. But hey, my birthday is going to be on Friday, January 17th, and I'm actually flying into the Bay Area. So if anyone watching would want to, hang out on, my birthday, January 17th, that's actually the one day that I'm, I originally did have a plan to hang out with some people that day, but plans got changed. So I'm actually going to be hanging out just by myself on that day. So if anyone in the Bay Area would like to hang out on January 17th, just hit me up, hit my line on Twitter, whatnot. So, yep. This has been the Gold with Danny Golding. Thank you for watching here on Danny Golding TV, and just remember to treat other people the way you want to be treated. Peace.